This video is sponsored by Chains of Freedom. My god, Ludo, Monster Hunter Wilds is finally out. How have you been finding it? Well, you love it. Yeah, me too. I've reached Hunter rank 100 already and I'm enjoying every single second of it, but just like with all Monster Hunter games, it's made itself worse, and I love that. Yeah, alright, that look is justified. Let me explain. Monster Hunter as a series is extremely cyclical, not just in gameplay but how it reuses its weapons and monsters from past titles, and everyone adores this, myself included, and I've never seen a community go so apeshit for the return of an ape that shits. You call him Pinky Stinky. Love it. Anywho, Monster Hunter has had the same interactions and the same tools since the dawn of time, so you'd assume that this would get stale, but no, partly because the franchise keeps making itself worse. And what I'm about to go into may sound like complaining, and it is, but just hang in there for me to complete my point before you dogpile me in the comments. Who am I kidding? You're already typing, aren't you? Anyway, what I mean by all of this is that each iteration of Monhun, they usually add some revolutionary new mechanic that completely changes the game, and in the very next title completely remove it in favour of something else. And the best example of this is with wire bugs. Say what you want about Monster Hunter Rise, but the wire bug system was one of the best things introduced to this series in decades. For those who aren't familiar with Rise, wire bugs are a mechanic all players have access to that allows them to hold the left trigger to perform powerful attacks based on a counter of said wire bugs. This was genius, as it allows players to customize and choose their attacks based on their playstyle or weapon, but these also doubled as a quick way to dodge or recover from being attacked. All of this encouraged players to be more proactive with how they approached combat and also feel less like a sitting duck just waiting to get carted if they got knocked down, which has always been a huge problem in this series that this mechanic partly solved. Now, I'm only scratching the surface of this system, but it was such a revolutionary inclusion to this series for them to completely ignore in Wilds. Now yes, I know technically Wilds is a sequel to Monster Hunter World, but that's not the point. I'm constantly getting knocked down and Pavlovian response spamming the buttons to wirebug recover, but just having to lay there like a pleb. Why didn't they bring it back? Yeah, well, I'll get to that. I've got some more incoherent complaining to do. Thank you very much. Alright, let's talk about mounts. In Rise, they introduced Palamutes, dog-like companions that could help you in battle while also being able to be mounted for quicker traversal. In Wilds, they were clearly inspired by this and have dedicated mountable birds that I am a bit conflicted on. Their main feature is that they will automatically run to your target without your input, which is sometimes great when I need to make a coffee and it will walk me to a cutscene, but most of the time I return to find it mindlessly running into a wall because it has no idea how to navigate this labyrinthine cavern of bioweapon dragon eggs. I'm gonna assume that they're using nav mesh calculations for the mounts to help them find their way around, or following the spline of the scout flies that also leads players to where the monster is, and either way, their navigation gets caught up on all the bullshit clutter in the world. Constantly feel like I'm fighting against it and the environment, struggling to find the often hidden context climbing spots to simply attempt to go down or come to a stop as it constantly attempts to move. Maybe this was done to make it feel more like a living creature, but the fact that they barely react to the flaming octopus about to rain down on them strikes a real harsh juxtaposition. Am I done ranting? You wish, mate. I've still got one more thing to get off my chest. Now, Ludo, what is objectively the best thing about Monster Hunter? Correct. Watching cute cats cook me food. Their food animations are arguably better than their monster animations, and that is saying something because just look at these turf wars. Prepping for a hunt and sitting down for a meal was a ritual, not just to mechanically gain stats, but a treat for the soul. Just look at this. In Wilds, and I'm sorry to say this, Ludo, palicos don't cook your meals anymore. They just give you rations so you can do it yourself. Now, this is factually, categorically, unequivocally, 1,000 times worse. I will happily die on this delicious looking hill. Actually, I might slide halfway down this hill because, it still looks delicious. I mean, I get it. If you'd spent so much time crafting custom animations that change based on what ingredients the players themselves choose and then have their character interacting with and eating it, Yeah, I'd want the player to interact with that system instead too, but it's not just the missing palicos I have an issue with, it's the timing of it all. Eating food in previous games was a ritual you did before every hunt, and due to the level-based hunt system, it was a step you always took, but in Wilds, the pseudo-open world nature of the game doesn't encourage you to ritualistically eat, and even its story missions push you from fight to fight with little warning, and more often than not, your food buffs will wear off mid-battle, leaving you vulnerable and breaking the entire flow of gameplay. You'd be forgiven for missing the timer all the way up here that's only viewable if you hold a button that's rarely used, or the warning that pops up on the side of your screen that you're most likely gonna miss because you're getting the dirty heel of a Lalabarina shoved down your throat. Yeah, I can't read right now, mate, I'm on my uppers here. Yeah, we have been a little bit negative, haven't we? Which is odd considering we actually love Monster Hunter. And it's these small specks of bad that is actually what makes this game series so special. And I'll explain all after today's sponsor, Ludo.
This video is brought to you by Nord Current Labs and their upcoming game Chains of Freedom, a high-stakes turn-based tactics game inspired by classics like XCOM. The world has gone to hell, and you're the only one who can save it. Command an elite military squad through perilous missions filled with danger, deceit, and moral dilemmas, the three tastiest flavors of intrigue. In order to unravel a complex plot involving a rogue scientist, mind control serums, and a government teetering on the edge of collapse, you'll need to be prepared. That's where your squad comes in. Sauté together a mirepoix of weapons, ranging from meat hooks and axes to flamethrowers and mortars. And don't forget to enhance your characters with unique abilities by mixing and matching biocrystals found in the world. Hell yeah, biocrystals, that's the umami of upgrades. I shouldn't write ads when I'm this hungry. Hungry for Chains of Freedom, which releases later this year on PC. So head on over to Steam right now to wishlist the game and start tasting that sweet, sweet intrigue.
Exactly, Ludo. Now our chains are also freedom did too. We can now talk about why the bad leads to the good. Monster Hunter is this paradoxical cycle of reusing old beloved monsters and mechanics, but at the same time removing others for something completely different. And that's the crux of what the Monster Hunter devs attempt to do with each passing title, and that's innovate. With every single complaint I could glean from any Monster Hunter release, there are 10 times more things to praise. For example, I can only speak from the perspective of someone who uses one of the 14 different weapon types, otherwise I'd be here all day, but from the perspective of the best weapon, which is razor sharp wit. No, it's the insect glaive. So Wilds has, in my opinion, drastically improved the insect glaives. When people see you spinning in the air like an ADHD-riddled mosquito Beyblade, they think the weapon is simple, but they don't really understand the lengths it takes to get to that point. Sounds a bit obnoxious, but to be able to let it rip mid-air, you first need to collect extract from different parts of the monster's body. To do so, you fire out your kinsect out in hopes of making contact with the correct body part as the monster flails around. This is tedious, repetitive, and annoying to do under pressure, but the reward for doing all of this is the skybound Beyblade bullshit. In Monster Hunter Rise, they use this same system, but for some reason, they make the kinsect you fire out automatically target body parts it thinks you want to collect from, but it's nearly always wrong. And yes, you can use the powder melee attack to guide it where to go, but this just adds even more tedium. There has always been this ramp up to actually having fun with this weapon, and I'm happy to say they vastly improved the insect glaives in Wilds by changing a simple few things. The simplest improvement is how it now shows you what extract is going to come from each part, so you don't have to play this ping-pong guessing game with a monster's ass. You can now build up extract too from focus attacking their parts, allowing you to engage with combat and build extract as you do so. And to top it all off, if you break one of the monster's wounds directly, it gives you all 3 extracts immediately, encouraging you to engage with its new core feature, which is just amazing. What's a wound? Yeah, you wouldn't have seen this because you don't have thumbs to press the buttons, right? Okay, so wounds. After attacking specific parts of a monster, you can open up a wound. When successfully destroyed, they grant special effects or a unique attack depending on your chosen weapon. Getting all extracts was the example for the insect glaive. The beautiful thing about this is how it encourages a whole bunch of interactions that enhance the Monster Hunter experience naturally. For example, it encourages communication on where to attack to better focus on creating wounds, then different weapons are better at creating wounds in different areas, causing synergies between weapons that didn't exist before. For example, me going crazy on the monster's back with the Insect Glaive opens wounds up there that are easily accessible for dual blade users when they activate their wound tornado spin bullshit. And because they've amped up the drop rate by granting specific parts from wounding specific areas, it creates this targeted frenzy that can alter the challenge of a fight and make it feel more like a hunt. Every single driving force of this game is attempting to get you to engage with the wound system and rewards you for that. The endgame armor set has a specific bonus that directly heals you when you attack a wound, which is just busted and beautiful. This mechanic just makes sense for the series. It might be the best system they've added ever, and this only really exists because of experimentation and then iteration on a mechanic they introduced in Iceborne. This is what we want from sequels. I'd much rather experimentation that leads to innovation with a couple stumbles here or there over regurgitated slop for the masses that hasn't changed in 10 years. I'll let you guess which series I'm on about. As for the tiny nitpicks I have for Wilds, I'm sure they will be improved upon, not even in the next title, but most likely in the next DLC. Just like you gotta crack some dino eggs to make a monster omelette, sometimes you need to add radical new systems that might not work out. What? Like swimming? Yeah, well, at least now we know. And I'm personally grateful that the Monster Hunter team has the courage and honestly financial stability to be able to experiment just like that, and we should be encouraging more devs to do that too. But what do you think? What do you think of Monster Hunter Wilds, and what is the most radical sequel change you can remember that didn't quite work out? Let us know down below because we would love to discuss this with you. Alright, so I'm going to be at GDC next week, so if there are any devs watching that might want to meet up, I'd love to bounce some ideas off of your talented brain boxes on my latest indie project that I'm working on. So hit me up on Blue Sky or email me directly at jamate@secondwindgroup.com. Alright, Ludo, say goodbye now. Alright, bye guys.